don't know where to start in summarising the nervous excitement that I'm feeling right now. Hello one and all, and welcome to Seen Through Glass. Welcome to Chicago, and yes, welcome to a Ferrari 360 Challenge Stradale, but that is no ordinary Challenge Stradale. That's a car I've been trying to track down for I think like 2 years because, ladies and gentlemen, that is the world's only manual Ferrari 360 Challenge Stradale. Ah! Everybody, welcome Khanh to the channel. This is the legend who owns this car, but also got in touch with me and invited me to come and check it out and drive it. I'm sorry if I'm going to act like a 4-year-old child for most of today.
Totally understandable.
This is nearly my dream. I'm going to explain more to you guys, tell the sort of story and the backstory when I get behind the wheel. Right now we're going to go and get some fuel because yes, it is a Ferrari. But I want to hear from you, Khanh, how you actually ended up with this car. But yeah, first things first. Oh no.
There we go.
Hey, that's always smooth. That's the immobilizer. There we go.
Just takes a few times.
Takes a few times. It's just the process. There we go. Seatbelt on. So yes, now look, you weren't the guy who sort of commissioned the conversion from the standard F1 gearbox that you get in a Challenge Stradale to the manual. So you bought it after it was done. But how did you find it, and how did you end up with it? And please drive so that we can experience it as we talk.
So I'm gonna keep the valves closed just so it's not too loud when we're driving.
Good idea.
I contacted you on Sunday after I saw your Ed Bullion video, and then the Scud that he's got, I actually rented that a few years ago.
Okay.
And then I rented it for a week. That got me hooked on Ferraris. I ended up buying a Scud a few years ago. I like lightweight Ferraris. I think the Challenge Stradale, also like you, looks better than the Scud. Yep. And then I found this car on a Petrolicious article. I saw the conversion. I thought, I'd like to do one as well. Then I was thinking about the numbers, and I'm like, probably not. It's probably not a good idea. But then I saw this exact car for sale locally. Okay. I test drove it. That was it. It was over.
So the question is, did the original owner who did the conversion actually come up and realize and go, oh, maybe a manual's not suited to this car, or was he just a fool and did all that work and then got rid of it?
I think he ended up trading it for a race car and an FF. So his priorities changed.
Yeah, sure.
Was good for me.
Great for
because
you.
I don't intend to let this car go. I just don't see it ever, really.
Sure, no, I mean, that's the thing, it is the one and only. It is not a factory car, as I say. The conversion was done by a shop down in Kansas, we think a couple of years ago, 2017, because I, like you, saw the Petrolicious article, and my entire audience actually trolled me with that article.
But no video,
years.
I mean, there was an article, no video, nothing, and I was really stunned that there wasn't more press about the car.
Super intrigued by how this thing is going to feel and handle and act. But yes, as I say, first things first, to get some fuel, and then we're going to be headed to a road where Khanh, unbelievably, is going to let me get behind the wheel. Now, a little bit of storytelling I think needs to take place before we really start to review this experience. For those of you that have never seen my channel before, hello, I'm Sam from Seen Through Glass, and I'm obsessed with the Ferrari 360 Challenge Stradale. It's been my dream car really since it came out in 2004. Now, you may be aware of the 458 Speciale, the 488 Pista, the 430 Scuderia. All those cars were road cars made racier. This was a race car made roadier. The first of sort of Ferrari's hardcore, track-focused, mid-engined V8 supercars. And so as I say, it has kind of been succeeded by 430 Scuderia, 458 Speciale, and now the 488 Pista. But this was kind of like the original, and therefore it's pretty intense, it's pretty hardcore, and it was at an era of Ferrari where Michael Schumacher was dominating in Formula 1. I just think the cars looked and sounded great, and sound is an important factor because this is arguably one of the best sounding cars of all time. However, as time has gone on, as it has aged, one sort of criticism of the Challenge Stradale was the F1 gearbox it was offered with from factory. The single clutch sort of flappy paddle gearbox. At the time, revolutionary, but unfortunately, it is not dated well. Anyway, right, let me get my seating position set up. Key. There we go, thank you. I'm back to front. So yeah, everything's a little bit back to front because those of you that don't know, I actually own a 360 Modena in the UK, which is fitted with a 6-speed manual gearbox. So this is kind of like the ultimate situation for me, the ultimate opportunity to drive my dream car, which was only offered from factory with the slightly crappy F1 gearbox, but with the 6-speed manual that my 360 Modena also uses. So yeah, here we go. This should all be relatively familiar. However, I've actually only driven the Challenge Stradale twice. First time was a red car in the UK, and it was unbelievable, and I did actually film it. And then I briefly got behind the wheel of one in Australia earlier this year. But this I'm expecting to be quite a different experience because of, yes, that manual gearbox. For those of you again that aren't too familiar with the Challenge Stradale, because it was the sort of first of these like more hardcore versions of the road car, it didn't have a huge leap up in power. It was only about 20 horsepower extra over the standard car. But where they really made a difference was with lightweight material. So these door cards are all in carbon fibre. The whole car in general was about 100 kilos, or just over 100 kilos, lighter than a Modena. And it also incorporated a whole load of sort of ECU and technology that had come down from F1 and the actual 360 Challenge race car to make it a more sort of track-focused and alert thing. But anyway, yes, I'm trying to get all the sort of, you know, facts and stats and history out of the way now, so that when we start opening this car up and pushing on, I can just react to it in all of its splendour. This actual sort of tubing, this actual housing for the manual gearbox was obviously put in when the conversion was done. It's kind of very nice black metal, sits a little bit higher. In the standard car there isn't this, you've just got sort of the buttons basically to start the engine, you've got a race mode, traction control off, etc. But I actually think this has been done and incorporated very nicely. It's got a little American Ferrari flag there as well, which is a lovely touch. But yes, there's a part of me that's just excited to be in a Challenge Stradale, and then I'm like, oh, but it's also got a manual gearbox. Absolutely outrageous. Oh, I love it already. It's just a much quicker, much louder version of my own car. This is ridiculous. It feels immediately familiar. And the fact that I've got that gearbox, and whilst I'm sitting on the opposite side of the car and shifting with the wrong hand, it just feels perfect. And the thing is, it's hard to say how it directly correlates to a standard Challenge Stradale in terms of an F1 gearbox Challenge Stradale, because it's been so long since I've driven one in anger. I would say that that car, there's something about the sort of delayed shift of an F1 box that kicks you in the back a little bit, that lets you know when you're really pushing on. But the engagement of that manual box, which is just so beautiful, gated like that. Oh. God, I love you for this. Oh my God, this is so good.
A little bit of a bump coming up, and I'll tell you when. After that will be good.
It's the engagement of it. The car is still there. It is, yes, a Challenge Stradale, a very different Challenge Stradale. I'm not going to deny that. It's
right here.
Right here. Okay.
Then we'll go second gear. All right, let's go.
Oh my God! It's that analog driving feel you get from a manual gearbox mated with this kind of perfectly honed, track-focused Ferrari. And because of the way that technology has moved forward over the years, you don't get this now. When I drove the 488 Pista, there was something missing, and it was the fact that it was so electronically advanced and so almost like computerized. I wasn't getting a sort of a feeling, a sort of emotional connection with the car, whilst this gearbox just immediately gives you that. The soundtrack is a big part of it, I will tell you that. Wow. Oh my God! Yeah. You have got something special. Something very different and very special. And I genuinely feels that way because, as I mentioned, okay, the F1 gearbox is old, it's a little bit crappy, but it is still part of the Challenge Stradale. It still is part of its identity, and as a package it kind of comes together. But this gives it a new persona, and a good one, a very, very good one. This car on a twisty mountain road, I mean, I think it would just be the absolute dream, because don't get me wrong, pushing it like this is still brilliant, but the engagement you would have from that manual, being able to control the power, control the gears in a much better way, yeah, truly mad car. But it works so well. And it's really credit to the garage down in Kansas that actually did the conversion, because whilst of course you've got the actual sort of mechanical side of things, there's a huge amount of electronics, ECU, that controls this car that they also had to work on to sort of recalibrate the brains of the car to still work with this manual box. And it all feels, it feels factory, it really does. And it feels quick, that's the other thing. I'm very much caught up in the moment right now, and I'm going to need to sort of sit back and kind of think, like, has it improved the car? I don't know. That I will say. I don't know whether it has improved the car, but it has created a really stunning thing. I will say it again, and I've said it a million times before, but I gotta get me one of these! I know this isn't why you bought the car, but this is where the manual gearbox really comes into its own, because you couldn't really do this creeping around in an F1 box Challenge Stradale. It's such a lurchy gearbox, whilst like with my car, I find this gearbox so easy to use. Like, it's not a daunting manual Ferrari gearbox with a super heavy clutch and a tough biting point. It's really easy just to drive around like this and maneuver the car. So, as I say, I know you bought it as a more engaging drive, but I'm actually seeing the benefits of it right now at 20 miles an hour.
We'll see it again and we can do some tunnel blips, I'm sure.
Okay.
Right.
There is so much to think about. There is so much to take in to kind of assess this car. I think I said it, but I kind of forgotten everything that I said in the car because it was just such an overwhelming experience. But it's a car in its own right, because I do think it feels different to an original Challenge Stradale. It feels I would say closer to my car only because of the manual gearbox, but it is still raw, loud, and it definitely feels lighter than my car and quicker. But because of my familiarity with a 6-speed manual 360, that's what I'm relating it to more than the Challenge Stradale. Obviously, also, I've driven a Modena more than the Challenge Stradale, but I think because when you're accelerating flat out or booting out of corners, and you can really keep your foot in on the accelerator of a CS, that's where the kind of like mental, raw, raucous speed comes from. This car feels quick, but it just feels more, well, analog and engaging, which makes more sense. But yeah, I can't quite wrap my head around it because my breath has been taken away. I love this. Would I have it instead of a 360 Challenge Stradale? Maybe not, but would I have it as well? Almost definitely yes. I think almost definitely yes, because it is a different experience. It's not like you're having the same car just with a different gearbox. It feels like its own thing. So absolutely unbelievable. I am hugely grateful to Khanh for reaching out to me and for letting me drive this thing, because it is the only one in the world currently. Okay, fine, not from factory, but who cares? About $50,000 we reckon the conversion cost back when it was done in Kansas City. As I mentioned, a huge amount of work went into it, so bravo to that team. I'll be intrigued to see who else might do this in the future. I know there's a 430 Scud that's been converted to a manual as well, so I think people just want to get back to that analog sensation. But anyway, as I mentioned right at the beginning of the video, the gearbox isn't the only thing about this car, it is also the sound and the exhaust, and so we're about to go and do some tunnel runs in the CS. That's one big tunnel. Oh my god, this is like exhaust playground dreams.
Can't do that with the F1 so much, right?
You can't do that with the F1. Good point. Well, there we have it. Today is over. My time with the world's only manual 360 Challenge Stradale is over. I hope you guys have found it interesting or insightful. Give it a thumbs up if you have. Make sure to comment below and let me know what you would do. Would you pick the manual CS or the original factory F1 flappy pedal gearbox CS? Make sure to subscribe for plenty more videos to come.